crying out my tears in a testimony. Oh, you meant for a queen, and so unclean. My alabaster box.
I came not with pride, but with pain, not with polish, but with tears.
In my journey to build a relationship with God that was uniquely mine, free from the patterns I had been taught or observed, I asked Him for a personal, one-on-one lesson in how to love Him. How can we love each other? I knew I could never outdo God in love, but the idea of finding ways to express my love for Him was exhilarating. It set me on a quest to discover His love language. I know it sounds crazy, and at first, it sound like I wanted God to come down and be on my level and love me at a capacity that I can love Him back. And originally, that's kind of the thinking that I had when I asked God for a relationship, like nothing I ever seen. It was mindless, I should say. And I'm gonna say mindless because I was expecting something other than what I was, because I received revelation when I asked God for a relationship, which is which was it was so crazy to me at first because I seen so many people have relationships with God and they all look different, but they all had something in common. There was a space where they didn't pass. You had reverence and you had fear, but there was no love in my mind. Because for me, I thought about how I wanted to love, what I needed from my partner. You know, how many times I had my heart broken. And for me, it was just like, I told you what I needed. I told you how to love me, but you still didn't love me the way I needed to be loved. And in turn, that hurted me. And it wasn't that you weren't loving me. You know, it wasn't that these people were not loving me. They just weren't loving me to the standard that I needed to feel love. And I thought about that and I said, am I loving God to His standards? Or am I giving Him what I want to give Him and saying, I love you because this is the way I love? You know, like this is, I love in a way that I like to give people things. I like to, I'm very sentimental, so I like to make things. Um, my the way I express love may be different from how a person wants to be loved. You have some people that like to be touched all the time. I'm not. I don't really like that. I don't really like it. So if you're a person that needs constant, you know, touching, and I'm not a touchy feely person, you may feel like I don't love you because I'm not loving you according to how you want to be loved. And that's where I was talking about discovering God's love language, because I need to make sure that although I'm going to love you and express love my way, I need to also meet your standard of love if I want to maintain a healthy relationship with you, right? So that was my thinking. And then I read, if you love me, keep my commandments. So I'm like, okay, let me go read the commandments again. And I started reading the commandments, and so many things hit me, and it was just like, oh, these are these are laws. This is something that, I always knew. Like, it's just common decency. Don't kill, don't steal, don't have no other God before Him, because if I'm in a relationship, you feel me, like, I want to be the only one. I don't want nobody before me or behind me. I don't want to be number one. I want to be the only one. That's how I am. So if that's how I am, you got some people that, they all right being number two. God ain't like that. He don't have nobody before Him. And I'm okay with that, because what can come before God? You have nothing that it can even come after Him. So it's just like, you want to be loved a certain way? Let me see what I can do. I talk so much about how He made me feel. Oh, God, you're good. Oh, God, you're amazing. You're a provider. You are a shelter. You are a doctor. You are a surgeon. You are a healer. And I started to talk about all of the things that he is to me and how I loved him for all of the things that he is. And at some point in my mind, something clicked and said, but what if he wasn't a healer? What if he did not provide? If you're asking for a relationship that you have not seen before, what is the difference in the relationship that you're requesting from what you've seen? And it was because I didn't see anyone growing up love God for just being God, just being himself, just being holy, just because he exists. I think that was the turning point where what I asked made me look at myself different. Because what do I want to be loved for who I am? Because if I can't offer you anything, would you still love me? And to think about the fact that he said, I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb, right? I knew you before you were formed in your mother's womb. It means that he loved us at a capacity where we had nothing to offer. He loved us before we can even prove to him that we loved him back. He loves us without even requiring us to love him. He gave us the choice whether to love him or not. I think that's amazing. So you love me in the way that doesn't require me to love you back, because my love was contingent on how you loved me originally. I think when he started to shape my heart to fit what I prayed for, and it started to shift, it wrecked something. It wrecked that wall that I had seen in so many relationships where there was reverence and there was fear, but there was no love. That wall that separated reverence, fear, and love, it built a wall between it where they could not all coincide together. It wrecked that wall. So I was able to fear God, reverence him, and love him according to his standard to the best of my ability, like humanly possible. Even with me falling, because I think that when a lot of people see a person striving for God like me, they feel like there is a level of perfection that's reached. And in no way does wanting to love God in this way make me perfect, but it does cause a perfecting process to start, because he said that he would continue a perfect work in us to the day he comes back, right? So how can he do that? I had to look at what he required, not as rules, because the commandments, we call them laws, right? So that's what he called them, my laws. But when you think about like your standards, when you think about your boundaries, them your laws. They're your laws. This is what I require in order to maintain a relationship with me. These are my laws. These are my commandments. I don't want you to cheat on me. I don't want you beating up nobody. I don't want you to do anything that is going to jeopardize me being able to be up close on you. I want you going to jail. I want you hurting nobody else. I want you hurting me. I don't want you wanting nothing nobody else got. Because what we got over here is better than enough. When I start to think about those things, when I start to think about what he's really asking of us, what he really asking of me, because I don't know about y'all, but what he asking of me is he want to be loved the way he want to be loved. He want to be cherished. He want to be handled correctly. You know how many times I mishandle God? To think about mishandling a creator, mishandled him. Oh, I know God gonna forgive me. That was insane to even speak, because yeah, he is gonna forgive me. But to think that I'm entitled to that but not required to love him, how I'm what? But that's how children are. Being a mother made me realize who I was as a child of God. I looked at my son, I looked how I made sure the things that I sacrificed, the things that I, struggle for, to make sure that he had, to let him know. At one point, I had to tell him, I'm broke. I don't got it. I don't got it. Because he thought I was rich. He literally said, Ma, I thought we was rich. And I'm like, no, sir, we was one paycheck away from sleeping in the car. We could lived in hotels. I said, one thing we ain't gonna do is sleep in the car. Lord, please don't let us Please don't let us see the street. So we ain't always had a home, but we ain't never been homeless. So in his mind, because we live in hotels, we got money. He wants something, he get it. Whether he get it now or later, he got it. So it was just like when it came time for him to understand and appreciate um what was given to him, his response wasn't favorable. His response was, I never asked you to do those things for me. And that thing hurt me so bad because I'm like, this boy don't know it was days that I made sure that he ate and was full and missed meals when they cut off food stamps. I ain't tell nobody we ain't had no food because as long as he ate, we had food. Like I'm making rice and beans and canned chicken. It's one of his favorite meals, but it was a struggle meal because that's all we had in the house. But he thinking like, oh yeah, that's mom's specialty. No, that's our specialty because we broke. But these were the things I did. And I'm sitting and I'm thinking about how I came to God. And I thought about him saying, I didn't ask you to have me. I didn't ask to be here. You should have just aborted me. And he was saying it in anger because he's not responsible for what I sacrificed for him, right? But he is responsible to appreciate what was sacrificed. He is responsible to steward the sacrifice. And I think that a lot of times we forget that not that there was a sacrifice made, but that we have to steward ourselves because of what the sacrifice did for us. And that loving God is just that stewarding the blessings that came from the sacrifice. And a lot of times we have that attitude with God, like, I didn't ask you to do that for me. I didn't even ask to be here. You wanted me here. You gave me purpose. You called me. You want me to do all of this. And it was ignorance and it was arrogance because I was bold. I was angry. I was angry at God. And I let him know there was a time where I didn't want to talk to him. For what? For what? I prayed to you for years. For years and years and years, I did not want to be the way that I was. And I prayed to you and I didn't understand. And I indulged it because if you're not going to take it away from me, then I'm going to live in it. And I did. But I nurtured a hatred for God that I didn't realize because I didn't want to live in his standard. I didn't want to live in his standard that required me to be righteous. And righteousness doesn't, come from us. Righteousness comes from God, but it comes from us aligning and being holy. And then we're considered righteous because God calls us righteous when we're aligned in the right way, right? So I can't be holy if I can't even look at God and want to be near him. And some people say they want God, some people say they love God, but they do so much that tears them away from him abiding. And that's what I thought of. When I wrote the Acts, I was in a weird place. I was in a place that I was like, I'm going to talk about how much I love God now. And when I got ready to sit down and write this book, that's what it was going to be about. How much I love God and all the ways. Let me count the ways. And he was like, yeah, nah. Let me show you real fast. I hid behind religion. I hid behind traditions. And I offered him a version of love that I was willing to give, not what he required, not what he even deserved. He drew his boundaries, and I consistently crossed them. And hey, I thought I was serving him, but I really was telling him to take the love that I was giving and be happy with what I was giving him, because I really ain't gotta love you. It wasn't that I abandoned the idea of what he said. I abandoned the idea of being faithful to the connection that his standards brought forth. I could not almost love him. That was one of the things that I wrote about in that. I can't almost love God. I don't want nobody almost loving me. It wasn't overnight. It wasn't something that just, oh, you know what? This is what I want to do. It literally like built up to it. I felt like I kind of was losing my mind, but I felt like I had it all together. Like it wasn't immediate. It was like I want to live the life that I see for myself, but I also want to please God. How can I do both of those? I prayed for a love that would not hurt me. I prayed for a love that would love me no matter what. And I searched and I searched and I searched. I gave my body to men and women looking for a love that I always had access to. And it was so crazy to realize that after all of this time of searching, I already had that love that I was looking for. And I couldn't appreciate it because at the time I needed to be able to hold it in my hands. And then God spoke to me in a way that didn't require words, that didn't require physical touch. He spoke to me in a way where he was able to penetrate through the disdain I had developed for him outside. Because I didn't like how his people looked. I'm gonna be honest. I was a dry place. I was a desert place full of dry bones. And he spoke to me in a way that said, you're so much more than what you see. But in order for you to live, you're going to have to learn how to love me. And I'm just like, but what if I don't want to live? And it was like, okay, but it's not time for you to die. It'll be a time for that. But right now, you live. In order for you to live without the torment, in order for you to live without your mind attacking your body. Because what I realized was, in hating God, I learned to hate myself. I learned to hate what he created. And I was being attacked. I had no preservation of life in me. I felt like at some point I started to see that depression was almost like an autoimmune virus where the body turns on itself. The brain says, yeah, no, we ain't got to do this no more. But I had became addicted to what he provided, the relief that God presented, and not actually loving him. Because there were stages in learning how to love him according to his standard. We don't just jump out the box knowing how to love somebody right. You know, I had to like learn how to love him. And I'm still learning because I ain't perfect. I'm still trying to figure it out, you know? And it was just like, but beginning to understand how to do it correctly, it was a learning process. I didn't know what to do. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna, I love what you do. I love loving you. I love the feeling of love. I was addicted to the feeling of love. So I took and I applied that to God, and it was just like, I can appear as a whole person in front of people. I can proclaim you. I can hide under the shadows of the wings of the Almighty. I can do all those things. I could be in the back, and nobody will ever have to see that I'm suffering in silence. I could have a form of godliness and not actually shift into what God wanted me to be. Because it's easy to fake it. Because I'm on my business. I ain't gonna let nobody in my business. So nobody gonna really know. But it was excruciating. It was painful learning how to love God because I had to realize that in order to love God to his standard, I had to learn how to love myself. I would never have, I can't appreciate what he created if I can't appreciate it. So when I realized that, yeah, I want to kill myself. I don't want to be here. I didn't love the creator and I didn't love the creation. I couldn't love God. I couldn't love myself. I couldn't love anyone else. And that's just kind of where I was at. So when I asked God for a relationship, I was coming into a place where I was living a loveless life. Somebody said to me one time, and at the time they said it, it hurt so bad. It hurt me so bad. They said, you say you love people. You don't know what love is. And I was like, what? I love hard. I do this. I do that. And I love people. And people take advantage of me. And that's why I'm like, and I started to defend myself. And years later, I sat and that same voice came back. And I heard, you think you know what love is. You say you love people. You don't know what love is. So then when I started to ask God for this relationship, I had to reconstruct my idea of what love looked like, what it required. Because it wasn't only about me. It wasn't only about my needs being met. It wasn't only about my wants or my ideas. There was a whole nother person in this relationship. It wasn't because I wasn't able to love. It's because I really didn't know how. I can't blame it on the model I had of love. That was a reason. It's just that I had built a wall and lived inside that wall for so long. And the chaos in that wall was mine. And I learned how to live in it. And when people wanted to come into the chaos, sure, you could come in here, but I'm just letting you know. Only thing I'm protecting in here is me. And people wanted to come and live in the chaos with me. And I would tear them apart. And then when they reacted to me tearing them apart, I was hurt. It hurt me. Because how could you? You're supposed to love me in all of the ways that I present to you. You're supposed to love me through my mess, but I had to love other people through theirs. And there was a time where I looked at myself and I said, enough is a freaking enough. And if I ain't gonna die and I'm gonna have to live, I'm gonna have to do something. Because I was living like I can die at any moment. I can take myself out of here. And then when it was time to live, I had to look around me. I had to realize that everybody unknowingly was prepared for me to die, even though they didn't realize it. So then when I started to live in the life that God gave, people left because they couldn't see past the death that I had originally presented, right? And this all falls in together because of this. I had to prepare people for me living the life that God gave and me loving the life that God gave. I had to learn how to steward what He gave me, which was life at that point. I had to learn how to love myself and appreciate who He created me to be. And in turn, I appreciated the Creator. So saying yes to God, saying, yes, I'll live. Because that was my first yes. I didn't realize it until recently. My first yes wasn't, yes, I'll follow you. Yes, I'll do your word. Yeah, my first yes was, yeah, I'll live. Because I didn't want to live. I was in such a dark place. And when you think of a dark place, you think of, dark. I was in a place that had no light. There was absence of light. And it was like when I said yes to live, somebody just was like, oh, here's the light switch. And I can like I could see everything around me. And it was like, oh, I've been living in this room with provision. I've been living in this space and there's blankets and I've been freezing and I could see everything that God had intended for me to use, but it was so dark in the space that I was in because I refused to use the light that He gave me that I couldn't see that He had already planned for me to live. So now that I'm seeing like my first yes was, yes, I'll live. That was the first step of getting this relationship with God, was agreeing to live. I asked God for a relationship that I had never seen. He said, I came so that you would have life and that more abundantly. When you talk about appreciating a person for who they are, when you talk about loving a person for who they are, and you don't even love yourself, but you're asking for a relationship because you're addicted to the word that people have put on the idea of what you think you need. Because to me, what I found trying to love God, love can't even explain this feeling. I feel like people put love in place of what cannot be explained. It encompasses a lot. But I came so that you may have life and that more abundantly. To not even want, the reason He came. To think about telling God I want a relationship with Him and wanting to kill myself in the same breath made the sacrifice vain for me. I looked and like, why would you even die for me? I don't even want to be here. I don't even want this life. I was asking God for something that I wasn't even willing to give myself. I didn't even want to know myself. I didn't even want to love myself. I asked for a relationship. I asked for love. I asked for understanding. And I didn't even want to understand myself. I didn't want to look at myself. I didn't want to go into myself. I didn't want to spend time with myself. I didn't want to know myself. I wanted it to end. I didn't really even understand where the hurt and the pain began. I just knew that I was hurt. I just knew that I felt pain. And I just knew that I wanted relief. I knew that God gave me relief. So if I can love him properly, and I think it's so crazy to think that I can manipulate God into giving me relief by asking for a relationship. Because essentially that's what I'm thinking now. When I think over it, it was like, I want a relationship because I need relief from this. If you're telling me that I'm going to have to live because I have purpose in this, then you're going to have to give me relief so I can deal with the life that you want me to live. And that turned into him giving me exactly what I asked him for, which was him. Getting him required me to live and have life and that more abundantly. And then that required me to see that I got to look at myself. I got to face myself. I have to take responsibility in the places where I hurt people and where people have hurt me. And asking God for a relationship required me to forgive myself. Asking God for a relationship that I've never seen required me to look at myself. It says, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And I couldn't love anything, anyone, any person correct. Because I ain't love me. I required everyone else to give me the love that I wouldn't even give myself. I stayed in the background. I let people walk over me. I let people use me because I figure, that's how love is supposed to go. Then I would throw temper tantrums because I was an emotional mess. Then I got tired of being walked. So I became a force to be reckoned with. I perverted my gifts. I was the doorway to destruction because I was so gifted and so out of alignment. I wasn't ready for what loving God demanded. I wasn't ready for what I asked for. I didn't really understand the weight of what was entrusted. I didn't really understand what loving myself would require. Because if I ask for a relationship with God, then I ask to be rooted, right? Entangled in Him. And entangled in Him would start to produce fruit: love, joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, goodness, faith, meekness, temperance. I would start to produce those fruits, right? So I didn't know that I was going to have to face it. I learned that later on. Asked God for a relationship, and He said, yeah, come on. And I started hanging with Him, started reading His Word, praying, talking to Him. He started to show me things. And I started praying, I started being up under Him more, and I started to feel peace. Even though everything around me was chaos, I started to feel joy. Even though everything around me started to be destroyed, I started seeing things in my life fall. I had to start over, all my furniture gone, marriage done. I was in discomfort, but I didn't feel uncomfortable. I felt uncomfortable when I had to start working on me. Now, you can have my things, I don't care. No, I'm going to get 10 times back. I didn't realize saying yes to facing me, because that's what I had to do, love me. That was my first yes. When I got into this relationship with God, He required a yes. And I just said yes. I didn't really understand what I was saying yes to, but my yes required that I surrender my control. And my control was my control of me, my schedule, my plans, my dreams, my ideas, my reign of chaos. And I had to surrender the audacity. Because I asked God for a relationship and thought that I wasn't going to change anything about myself. And that was insane. I blamed the world for everything. At some point, I convinced myself that I didn't need God. And truthfully, I didn't want Him either. It wasn't that I didn't understand his power or what he was capable of. It was deeper than that. Imagine trying to build a relationship with someone you don't respect. That's where I was. I didn't respect him for who he was. I feared him, yes, but not in the way one would revere the Creator. I feared him in a way that left me trembling at the thought of his anger and jealousy, his power to both create and destroy at will. My fear wasn't reverence, it was primal, all encompassing terror. To trust something, to trust someone I was afraid of is an absurd notion. I was afraid of God. I didn't love him, but I wanted his love. And I didn't know how to get that because I had did so much. I did so much. I did so much. I felt dirty. I felt so far from him. I'm asking for a relationship and don't even know if he is going to respond. Because in my mind, he's listening, but he don't necessarily got to respond to me. Because I've ignored him for so long. I've ignored the convictions. I've ignored his voice. Because it's not like he stopped talking to me. He told me recently that the spirit doesn't leave, it grieves. So it grieved in me for a long time. A long time. And I didn't want him. I didn't want him. Because what him looked like was where pain started. And I didn't realize it. It was the ridicule. It was the standing out. It was the being set apart. It was the being different when I wanted to fit in. It was the being bullied. It was, it just looked like everything that was the original pain. It was the original pain. And I was like, I don't know if that's what I want. But at some point, I needed relief. And I went searching for him again. You know how we do, where like, um, we don't really be talking to God, and then we go through stuff and we go run into him for relief, and then once the relief comes, we don't talk to him no more until we need relief again. That's how I was doing it. But this time where I went for relief, he grabbed me and he held me and he was like, I need you to see something. Come take a walk. That's how I felt. And he was like, come take a walk with me. I need you to see something before you leave. And I'm like, okay. And I wound up staying with him. And he said, if you go back outside, you're gonna die. And I'm like, I guess I'm gonna stay with you because that was the point where I realized that I wasn't as suicidal as I thought. I wasn't, because I wanted to live. But that had came from, being in a place of darkness for so long. I just wanted light, even if it was for a little while. I wanted the things that I felt I didn't deserve. I wanted the things that I never seen me having. And Jeremiah 29:11. It's actually my favorite scripture. For I know the thoughts I think towards you, saith the Lord. Thoughts of peace, not of evil, to give you an expected end. And that changed so much for me. That changed so much for me because here I am feeling like I'm not good enough to be loved by God. Well, by anyone. So I'll take whatever love people give me, whatever it look like, whatever they want to do, because I'm not really worthy of love. I'm not really worthy of somebody like wanting me and wanting just me. I'm always cheated on. I'm beaten on. And I'm going to beat on people because I'm going to get you before you get me. Like, I think living that type of life and then going to the hands of an almighty, all-knowing, ever-present, righteous God, living, that listens, sees, and responds and hears, and responds. To go into the hands of a God like that and say, I know the thoughts, for I know the thoughts that I think towards you, thoughts of peace and not of evil, to give you an expected end. It changed my relationship with God. Because for the longest, I thought I was too dirty, too used, too broken, too stink. Too hunched on, if we being honest. Like, why would you ever want to use something like me? I did everything I could to not be used, and he still said, come on. I still got used to you. Because my thoughts of you are not what you think of yourself. My plans for you are not what I have planned for you. And that made the difference. So asking God for a relationship that I've never seen. Asking God on how to love him. Because it wasn't easy. It wasn't easy to ask him that. It just was like, I'm just tired of not having a model for how we supposed to do this thing. And if I ain't got a model, then I'm gonna be the model. I'm gonna be the model because I ain't perfect. I still have fears that the Lord is working on. I'm building confidence. I'm building structure with the Lord. Surrendering to Him is not easy. It's made to look easy because it's like, yeah, I'm just going to give you my all. But when you realize that I can surrender some parts of me and hold other parts, it look easy. But when you say, I surrender it all to you. Sometimes that's so hard because you hold some of those parts so dear. They're your defense mechanism. They're your reasons why. Imagine letting go of your reason why and adapting God's reason to, if that makes sense. God's reason to let go. God's reason to trust. This was my reason why for so long. I'll never let anybody do this to me ever again. So I'm gonna push. Somebody told me, "Oh, you're gonna be on welfare for the rest of your life." I proved them wrong multiple times. I worked the way I worked. I pushed the way I pushed because that was my reason why. And now you want me to put this down. You want me to work one job. You want me to trust you. You want me to let you provide for me. I got to give up my reason why. My work ethic was to prove somebody wrong that spoke a curse over me. You want me to give that up and allow you to be my provider and allow you to be my shelter? You want to be my be all end all, and you want my reason why? You want me to surrender it? It wasn't easy. It's still not easy. I'm still learning. I'm still stumbling. I'm still figuring out that there's remnants of my reason why left. We build our life, we build our personalities, we build our dreams, we build our goals on our reasons why. And when it's time to start living in survival and to live in a place of rest, sometimes that gets to be so hard. Jesus said, "Come to me, all ye that are heavy laden, and I will give you rest, for my yoke is easy, burdens light." I think that a lot of times when we're asking for a relationship with God or we're seeking a relationship with God, we don't understand that it encompasses our whole heart, our whole being, our whole schedule, all of our relationships, all of our isms, all of our schisms, all of our default mechanisms, it rewires us. It rewires us. And sometimes in the middle of that, we will convince ourselves that we don't need God because we've been doing it for ourselves for so long, and that the relationship with God that He desires has to come second to what we plan. And I think that's where I went wrong the first couple of times, where I didn't love Him according to His standard, because what I planned and what He desired was two different things. But this time, I'm seeking the heart of God. I'm seeking what He wants. How can I minister to you? You have ministered to me for so long. How can I love you for just being you? How can I stand before you and say, even if you don't do another thing for me? We hear it all the time. I'm still going to love you. What does that look like? What does it look like to serve a God that has nothing to offer you? Because He's done all that He's going to do. Am I still going to proclaim your name? Am I still going to tell people to follow you? Am I still going to tell people to love you? But He loves us so much. He give us proof. He give us reasons. He give us reasons. Continuously providing. But I just want to love you for you. That's what I was asking for. I asked for a relationship where I could love God just for who He was and not for what He did. But He loved me so much that He would do and do and do and do and do and give and pour until my understanding of what love was met the reality of what love really is. I asked for something life changing. I couldn't prove my love through words. I had to prove my love through action. And that action was surrender. Surrender of my will, surrender of the things I wanted to do, surrender and taming my flesh and stepping out into what was unknown, what was not fully revealed, and go into the arms of God and saying, you know what? I trust whatever it is that you have for me. What you need me to do. What you need me to look like. What you need me to say. Do you need me to be quiet? Do you need me to watch? What you need me to smell like? How I need my hair? How do I need to walk? Because if I'm in a relationship with somebody, they're a representative of me. Don't be going outside looking crazy and then people be like, oh, that's Nicole's man. No, sir, read Bob. Go back in there and change. And that's exactly what I had to think about. I'm a reflection of God. Sometimes I walk out and you ever like, there was this one time I got dressed in the dark and I had on two different color shoes, a navy blue one and a black one. But the blue was a lighter navy blue. And you could tell I had on two different shoes. Sometimes we gotta go back in and get dressed in the light. Make sure we match. Make sure we iron. Make sure we looking like something. Make sure we smell good. I'm running late and I'm in the bathroom at work brushing my teeth. Sometimes we gotta go back and do our first work all over again. Because what the acts was for, a relationship that I had never seen, was that when people see me, they know without me ever saying a word that I'm yours. They know who I belong to without me ever speaking a word. Whether they can explain it or not, I want a relationship where people know I belong to you. They know, they know, they know, they know. I don't know what it is about you. I know you don't, but I'm happy you see it. I asked God for something that changed my life so much, and I didn't even know what I was asking. I couldn't even begin to fathom what would change in me, what would shift in me, what I would offer God, what I'd be required to give, what I'd be required to let go, what would crumble, what would break, what would pop, what would snatch, what would be crushed, what would be burned. I had no idea that asking God for a relationship that looked nothing like what I ever seen would push me into a place where my eyes were wide open but shut at the same time because I had to walk by faith and not by sight. I couldn't give any fleeting gestures. I couldn't I couldn't act anymore. I couldn't seem becoming. I had to start becoming. I couldn't put up a facade. I couldn't be the old Nicole. I couldn't have any part of her left. At least not the parts that I thought was important enough to carry. Because he will use ruins to rebuild walls.